Okay, so I'm going to reduce this thickness to 100, slab thickness to 100. Then I'm going to, oops, I'm going to the roof. Okay, right. I love the magic wand. Okay, let's say we have this unit, the house, something like that. Everybody has something like that. Okay, just a simple room, a simple house. Okay, maybe we want to open the window, right? Okay, even though it's not encouraged to have a in Singapore, I'm not sure in Malaysia, but in Singapore, when I was in architecture, my boss always encouraged us, hey, don't try to do a swing window on the ground level, right? Kids may run around, run about, right? Then boom, bang the head. Okay, maybe we want to open some, you know, let some ventilations into the house, right? Okay. Okay, maybe this window we're going to make this the corner window. Maybe we're going to make this fixed glass. Okay, so fixed glass. Then we can have this as glass. Okay. What else do we need to do? Okay, maybe we need to put some ground. Okay, let's go to the mesh tool. Mesh tool. Okay, here. Okay, let's create some ground. Okay, I'm just going to do a simple mesh. All right. Okay, and I don't want this. I don't like to see the cover fill on top. Okay. Okay, if you think you want it to be, okay, you need the ground to be, you know, bigger or further. Okay, do whatever you like. Okay, so everybody has something like this. Put okay, let's put some trees. Okay, so you click on the chair tool. Okay, double click on it. Then type, look for trees here. Okay. Okay, then you can choose any of the trees. I suggest we don't use the 3D trees. The 3D trees, you know, the rendering can be very, very slow. So we use this kind of trees that has, you know, that have some kind of shadowy figure there. Okay. So this represent, it tells us that these trees will have an image, a transparent image, okay, a PNG image, and also has a symbol, something like the GDL that we use. Okay, so on floor plan also you can put, instead of putting the real trees, okay, you can even use change something here. If I go to this tree, let's say this palm tree, right? Okay, then you can go to the 2D representation. Okay, but this is about submission. I think I didn't show this. Okay, so you can also use this symbolic top view, okay, something like the AutoCAD kind of symbolic trees. Okay, so this is these are the trees that you can use if you need to do this. You need to place the trees, in symbolic view. Okay. Okay, maybe just put one more tree. I just put one more tree. That's it. Okay. Okay. Go away. Okay. 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 Let's say we have something like this. Okay. Up to you how you want to put the trees. Okay. I leave it up to you. Okay. Basically, this is not about the trees. It's about the how you do the access the rendering. Okay. Okay. Everybody has something like that. Okay. So to access the rendering tool, right? We go to document, creative imaging. Okay. And go to the photo rendering settings. Okay, and then you will have this. Okay, this is if if you go through from the menu, it is under document. Okay, but you may also want to switch on the 3D visualization toolbar, the tool the tool set, right? Okay, you can also use this. Okay, so you can place anywhere you want, right? So, but it's okay. I just place it somewhere there. Okay, so what this thing does is actually, okay, this is perspective view, this is axonometric view. Okay, right? So this is camera path. This is, you can do the path. Okay, okay, since we are here, right, it's not only about, okay, let's say, even though we're going to show rendering, but since I've seen some of the toolbar here, I want to show you something else as well. Okay, you can also switch on this under window toolbars 3D visualization. Okay, so what we have here, is actually the preview box. Okay, so and then inside, okay, at the top here under scenes, okay, there are quite a number of scenes here that we can choose from. Right, one of the favorites for very how to say is the actual the old models that we used to use using the board. Okay, is this guy. Okay, outdoor. Okay, white model. Okay, let's say I just use a white model. Okay, physical. Okay, let's see what happened. Okay, so you can choose whatever settings that you like. Okay, rendering is not something that everybody can just pick any settings and say, one try, that's it. Wow, very nice. Okay, rendering is something that you have to really practice and practice and practice, right? So there's no one fixed settings for everybody. It depends on how you want to present, how you like your mood, all this. Okay, so let's say I take this, I just choose this one. Okay, I just leave it whatever render settings I have out there. Okay, then I just click this guy. Okay, why the thing disappear? Okay. Mm. Okay, so I click on this camera below here, and this and okay. So you can see, this is even the just a basic rendering. I find the CineRender is quite good. So let's go back to the settings. Okay, so you can also access this from the icon from the toolbar, from the toolbars here. Okay, so this black window here is the preview window. Okay, and if you think the rendering is too small, okay, this is actually very small. Okay, so if you want to adjust the size, okay, you can click on this icon. Okay, and you can choose whatever size you want. Okay, the screen size or the paper size, right? Portrait or landscape, you can choose any size you want. Okay, and of course, the bigger the size, the slower the rendering will become. Okay, let's say I just take this one. Okay, then I go back here. Okay, you can also use the basic renderer, which is okay, right? Which is, you can try lah, but I'm not going to waste time, because rendering, it can be quite time consuming sometimes. Okay, you can also use some sketchy type. Okay, so this sketchy type you may want to use if you have a bad paymaster, right, who always want to see you produce a lot of work before they're going to pay, right? So use all this sketchy kind of image. Okay, and then print it in black and white, right? Just show to the client, hey, this one I did all the sketches, a lot of work, right? So you can do this to cheat the client. Okay, don't tell anybody that I teach you that. Okay, some of the architects actually advise me. Okay. Okay, but CineRender by Maxon is good, because the first time when I saw, okay, CineRender is from Cinema 4D. Okay, Cinema 4D. The first time I saw this software was in 201. The same time when Revit came to Singapore, and then I was very impressed. Okay, I was very impressed with it, right? And then we were talking, even when I was with SIA, we were talking about, hey, maybe we should use Cinema 4D for Revit rendering, because Revit rendering was horrible last time, right? So just before we started, okay, Autodesk acquired Revit, right? So my ex-boss told me forget it, so we said forget it. Then when I joined Graphisoft, say, wow, it's my luck, it's back then. Okay, it's back inside ARCHICAD. Okay, so it's good that we have that. Okay, and then if you uncheck the detail settings, because I had that, okay, you can see you can set all the quality, the quality that you want to choose in here. Okay, right? Let's say I just use medium, right? Okay, you can set the kind of lighting, shadowy, okay, what kind of quality you want, okay, the lights, right? You can also use this, the use white model effect. Okay. Right. Okay, and then here you can use the physical sky. Okay, so the effects you can have, you know. Okay, let's try this use white model effect. Okay, I just show you what we have in this panel first. Okay, the sky intensity. Okay, this is where you can choose. Okay, let's say I close this. Okay, you can choose what kind of cloud, okay, environment that you want. Okay, you can choose any one of them. Let's say I just want to use a friendly afternoon. Let's see. Okay. And then you can also choose your location. Okay, if you want to use location, okay, you can choose the location that you want. Right. Okay, let's try in what? Malaysia. Come on, no Malaysia. Sorry guys, no Malaysia. Okay, Kuala Lumpur. Singapore still have. How come no Malaysia? Okay, so you can also choose by location. Okay, but if you choose this, let's say one of the background, they will just use the custom location. Doesn't matter. Rendering, you know, it's just image that you want to show. Okay, so the dates also you can choose the date. Okay, now in my machine is default to 29 June 2014. Okay, then okay, let's say I just do the quick rendering. Okay, so I can click on this. Some users like to click on the preview. Okay, the small little box here. Okay, so if you want to click there, you can. But if I want to click here, okay, because I use the white, I want to just use the white model effect. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, usually the white model effect, you don't put the sky background. Okay, for me, you know, depending on how you like to do it, I prefer to use to see even my preview on a bigger screen rather than a small little box there. Okay, rendering will take some time. You know, those who have done any rendering will know about that. Okay, so with the background behind there, it's not very good. You see, it's like a very wintry kind of environment. Okay, so if I uncheck this, I uncheck the white model. Okay, let's render again. Okay, you will find the processing of the rendering somewhere below here, right? Where the quick tools are, the quick options are. See that? Okay, it's now processing. Okay, rendering usually is good to have a very powerful machine. Okay. What I used to do last time when I was in architecture, we always like to do the rendering just before we go back. Okay. And then we will stick a sticky note on the screen. Please do not touch this machine, rendering in progress. Okay. And the best thing about how ARCHICAD handles the memory, right? Even though I've used quite a number of rendering software, I noticed that most of the time, once you start the rendering process, right, the machine is as good as dead. Okay, but what ARCHICAD does, while the thing is rendering, you can still do work. Okay, it's quite impressive, and I look at it, it's very, very good how the way ARCHICAD handles this memory, the memory management is very, very well done. Right? So you can render, you can do other things, change here, change there. Okay, and at the same time, okay, render. Okay, let's say I look at this. Okay, I don't like, right? Okay, close this guy. Not nice. Okay, so okay, whatever rendering that you have, ARCHICAD has created for you, okay, it will not be automatically saved on your screen. So once the render is completed, you may have to right click the image and then save it. Okay, so now we still have to wait for the rendering. Okay, while the thing is, while our screen is doing the rendering, okay, I want to show you. Okay, you can go to the 3D tab and let's play around with the shadow. Okay, with the sun location. Okay, so you can right click anywhere on the screen. Okay, then click on the 3D projection settings. So this is where you can actually play around with your sun. Okay, the location of your sun. Okay, the direction. Right, and then you can also, right, yes, you can also use the here. If you look at the icon here, okay, you can also, okay, there's a lot of settings you can set here. Okay, a lot of the icon here, but I'm so used to the right click, right? So you can explore every single icon here. See that? Okay, so if you want a specific day and time, you can choose day and time. Okay, the view cone. Right? So those of you who are very, very good with playing with cameras, okay, you will understand this more. Okay, about this distance, view cone, wide angle, or this. So you can just play with it. Okay, yeah, if you click on the sunlight, you can choose the color of the sun. Okay. By default, is very light yellow. Okay. So you can try all the various shadow location. Let's say I want to put my shadow somewhere around here. Let's see. Okay, because okay, one thing in ARCHICAD, you cannot show images, okay, in the elevation or the section, but sometimes you want to present when you show your elevation in full color like this, okay, like the 3D outlook that you have something here. Okay, there's this icon. This icon is quite interesting. Okay, for some reason you want to, okay, if everybody can look at this icon. Okay, okay, so if you want to take a look at the elevation of this guy, right? Hold on, maybe I want to save this view so I don't have to waste time looking for it. Let me do this videos. Right, so if I click on this icon, And let's say I want to get the elevation of this. I want to look at the elevation of this. Okay, I can look at this, but this is in perspective mode, right? So if I change to the axonometry mode, then I click on this surface. Okay, it will give me the elevation. Okay, this is quite interesting. Ground, so why is this ground hanging in the air? Okay, let's check. Okay, so you can, if you want to show, you want to have elevation view with the trees, okay, with images, okay, that you have exactly you have in your 3D. Okay, so you can use this tool. Okay, so let's say if I turn here, if I want to get the elevation of, you know, from the right, I just use this guy. Okay, first you need to click the axonometry command or Control F3. Okay, then you choose look to perpendicular of click surface. So you can have this kind of elevation. Okay, because if you look at this south elevation, okay, if I have this, if I click on the tab, the elevation here, whether south elevation or east elevation, okay, you will notice that the trees will be in black, you know, black rectangles. Okay, so in elevation, if you don't want to see the trees, it's best, okay, you create a new layer. Okay, I don't know what did we have here. Landscape. I just create one layer called trees. Right, I'm gonna hide it. So these trees, okay, we can actually hide, put it in the hidden layer. This one is okay. So in elevation, usually you don't want to show the image trees because in ARCHICAD, okay, they cannot handle image in elevation or section. Okay, everybody has anybody, okay, all of you has the rendering done? Let me check mine. Okay, so let's say I have this rendering done. Okay, right. Then I will see, my apron is hanging in the air, right? Because just now I just realized that, you know, I didn't check properly. So once it's rendered, it doesn't automatically save in your file. So you want to save in the file, make sure you right click, save as. Okay, then put it somewhere. Let's say I just put it on my desktop. Okay, name whatever you want. So I just put it, leave it as it is. Okay, so you want to use a TIFF image. Okay, this is also very subjective. A lot of rendering people I know, they like to use TIFF, right? So because of the quality of the image, okay, JPEG is not really that good, okay? But personally, I find it depends on how big you want to render. If you got to put it in the frame, you know, maybe a big frame, A1 size, A2 size, okay, maybe a TIFF is better. But if you're just going to do a small size screen presentation in PowerPoint or in PMax, right? I think PNG or JPEG is good enough. Okay. So let's say I just want to use JPEG. Of course, JPEG, the file size is smaller. PNG, one thing about PNG that allows you to have, okay, all these settings. Okay, if you notice in JPEG, okay, also have this, but then JPEG you can compress the quality. Okay, let's say I just use PNG lah. Okay, I don't want to waste so much time about this. Okay, PNG is always better. Okay, PNG is always better. Yes. Okay, I like PNG because one thing, PNG is I don't know, it's just the quality compared to JPEG. Okay, JPEG is if you use JPEG, you have to check this part. I think you really have to. If you notice, if I go to options, okay, okay, see in PNG, right, by default this guy is always 100. Okay, the quality is always 100. But if you use JPEG, one thing, it tends to reduce the quality without us knowing it. Right? So if you will always have to use options, and then if you think you want 100, make it 100. Okay? Right? JPEG is like according to some users I know, JPEG is like a flat image kind of thing, right? And then in PNG you can actually use transparency, or there's a lot of you want to superimpose with your existing building behind. Okay, PNG is good with that. Okay, but of course TIFF is always good lah. Okay, can you insert a camera? Okay, yes, you can insert a camera. Okay, you can insert a camera. Okay, let's say, okay, let me check the camera. Okay, I'm not very good about this camera thing, right? Maybe James or Ashraf, is better with it, because I've seen Ashraf does a lot of rendering, very, very nice. Okay, you can insert the camera, but I need to look where can I insert the camera. Let me, because I can't remember where is the camera. Yeah. Let me look for it later. Okay. One more thing about the rendering. If you notice the grass, okay, the grass is flat. Okay, if you notice the rendering that we have, the grass is flat. Okay. So what we're going to do now? Yeah, we're going to change the grass. Right. Hold on. So we're going to go to options, element, attribute, and we're going to go to surfaces. Okay. Right. So if I switch this to CineRender by Maxon, and I'm going to create a new surface. Okay, a new surface. Right. Okay. Can everybody follow me this? Okay. Options, elements, attributes, surfaces. Okay, then change the engine settings to CineRender by Maxon. Right. Okay, let's create a new surface. Go to new and go to new from catalog. Okay, then let's say we use we can choose either new from catalog or replace setting from catalog. Okay, once we have that, we can go to link libraries and look for grass. Look for landscape, then look for grass. Okay, so here you can choose whatever grass you want. Okay, there's a lot of grass here. Okay, maybe I just want to use this grass green 23. Okay. Okay. So if you replace, this will happen. Okay, it will replace, right? But if you use new, okay, from catalog, it will create for you a new one. Okay. So it's best to create a new one. Okay. Surfaces. So go to new. I'm repeating. New from catalog. Change the green grass green 23. Okay. Okay, so this putting in new surfaces can be done with any, not only for grass. Imagine you have a new images that you want to use for your project. Okay, so you can have that image, okay, either the PNG or JPEG or whatever format you have, and you can use it. So if you can put somewhere in your folder, right, and then you can actually insert it into the surface. Okay. Okay, then if you put in the grass, you may want to look at this somewhere here in the settings, right? Grass, you can set, okay, what's the strength or this, but I just use the default. Okay, once done, let's say we can just click OK. Right? And then you can use, let's say, the grass here, the mesh. you can actually change to the new grass 23. See that? Okay, make it slower. So now I want to change the grass, right? The existing grass that I have for my mesh is, okay, of course you need to click the mesh first. Select the mesh, go to the settings, and I'm going to override the surface. Okay. Everybody has that? And let's try to render. Okay, you may want to, yeah, I just do the rendering to check whether it comes out right. So I may have to go to the detail settings to set more things in there. Right? Okay. So one look, I see, okay, I see the grass a bit. Okay, maybe if you go to detail settings here, okay, if you click on these details settings, and you may want, you can also click on, okay, the grass doesn't look good right now, okay, because I think I should have changed grass options, okay, the grass, it wasn't checked, okay, so the grass wasn't checked, right, so it doesn't happen as I want, right, so this is something you need to look out for. Okay, let's say I just stop the rendering. Okay, to stop, just click on the red button below there. Okay, so now I'm going to check again the physical render. Okay, physical render. Okay, let's try to render. Okay, rendering is a very slow process. Okay, well, the thing is still preparing. Okay. So in here, in the details settings, okay, those of you who are, who have done a lot of rendering before, right? You can look at this, every single one of these. Okay, how you play with the sunlight, the lamps, even the environment, physical sky. Okay, I'm not going to touch every single one of them because this one will take that's now leave for a bit of time to render. Yeah, yes. Black and white. Oh, I think because okay, I think James has answered Mr. Tan. Okay, white color, right? Uncheck the white model. But just not remember I was testing that. Okay, uncheck this guy. White model is not unchecked. Okay, check your settings, your scene. White model is not unchecked. Okay, how about your scene? Okay, choose any one of the scene. Outdoor scene. Okay, if you use outdoor white model, okay, if it's custom, just make sure you choose outdoor first. Okay, don't use outdoor white. Outdoor white will give you white. Change to something that you want to use. Okay, you can go to show more, or you can select and manage scenes. Okay, you can choose from all this. Okay. Okay, maybe while we are waiting for that. Okay, okay. If you right click anywhere on the blank space in 3D, right? Okay, let's say you want to have shadows on. Yeah, because the processing, okay, it will take very long, especially because when we change the grass, because I changed my grass, it will take very long. It's not only the GPU, so the CPU also will play a part. Your RAM also will play a part. Okay, well, like my laptop, I have only 16 gig. So if you ask me for rendering 16 gig, is not really that good. Okay, at least 32 gig. Okay, so even for quick rendering, okay, you don't want to show this everything in black, everything. Let's say you don't want to do a rendering. Okay, you can also turn on your model with shadows. Okay, and then like yeah, I taught you guys. Let's say you want to create a the pen set. Okay, everything in gray, right? You can also do this kind of stuff. And there's something I want to show you. Let's say create sun study. Okay. So for quick render, sketches could be better. Yes. Okay. No, I think if you use the whatever default that we have, it is quite fast lah. It could be quite fast. Okay. But if you you try to do like what we just did. Why I show you about the grass? Some of you may have a good machines, fast machine, right? So you may want to just create those kind of realism lah, okay, photorealism, right? So you want to change the grass to blades, right? Then that's how you change the blade. So for sun study, this is something that I want to show while the thing is rendering. Okay, so we will have to we will have to let you know when is the time, because it involve James and myself have the training to be conducted in Singapore almost the whole of next week. Okay, while the thing is rendering, right? Okay, while my machine is rendering, maybe we don't want to waste time. Okay, I'm going to let James take over. Okay, and as you know, he's one of the designers of of ARCHICAD, right? So based on what I attended his training, okay, he can show us even a lot of things hidden in there, right? Which we have, as users, sometimes we don't even know it exists, right? So I'm going to switch the thing to James to take over. Okay, James, can you take over, James?
Yep. Just give me a second.
Yeah. I think my laptop is not strong enough. It's not strong. Even just do a single story rendering has problems. Okay.
Yeah. I think my machine is quite similar to yours, so I probably won't render.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, everyone can see my screen, and I guess they can hear me as well.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. Great. So I did this in like 3 seconds, so it's not as good as Zaid's presentation. Okay. So in the toolbar on the left, we just need to double click on this camera tool. I don't have my, yeah. So the camera tool down here. So we just double click this and open up the camera settings. So this allows you to create multiple camera paths. So I'm just going to delete this existing one. Yep. So yours will just be default and empty. So we just need to click on the little plus, so new camera path. And then we need to give the path a name. So maybe like outside, something like that. So it doesn't really matter what we can call it. So just maybe outside, and then we go OK. Okay, so now we've got a camera path. We can do a couple of things here. So we can either manually place cameras just by clicking. So with the camera tool, we can just click to place a camera. Get the camera tool out. We just double click the camera tool. So if we double click it, it will open up this palette. Okay, so I'll show you a few different methods. When we place a camera, it's going to use the settings that are currently shown here in this palette. So if I'm okay with that, I can just do a single click to place where the camera is and where it's looking to, so it's a focal point. So there's 2 clicks and that will place a camera. So just 2 clicks. The first click is the camera itself and then where you're looking at. So if I select this camera, so if I just hold shift to click on the camera, then the settings are going to be for the selected camera. So I can modify any of the settings in this palette, and once I update, I just need to hit apply to update that selected camera. But what I find may be easier is once you place it, because trying to find, okay, sometimes you will know exactly what the camera height is and where where I'm looking at, so where my target is. So this is quite good to get an exact position, but if you want to do it just by eye, what we can do is have the camera selected. So with the camera selected, we press F5, and now you can see in the tab bar, it's actually showing a little picture of a camera. So this is my camera view. So if it's not quite right, I'm just going to navigate a little bit in 3D to get more of a position that I want. And in my project map in the navigator, so that camera, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to say modify this camera to the current view. So I find this maybe is an easier way. So I just navigate in the 3D window, right click on the camera and say modify this camera to the current view. So I'll just do that. And now this camera is set to where I'm looking currently. Okay, so this is one way that I can just place a camera on the floor plan. If I now navigate a little bit in 3D and I go, okay, I like this angle and I want to make a new camera at this position. What I can do is on this camera path, I can right click and save the current projection. And that will add that camera to that path. So if I double click camera 1, it will go back to this first position, and double click on camera 2, and now we'll move to the second position. There is a there is another, yeah, so here I can also insert camera directly from here, but I tend to find from the menu, but I tend to find just right-clicking, save the current projection, which just adds a camera. I find that's the easiest method. Unfortunately, you can't rearrange these cameras, so they're in order of the creation. And if I go back to my floor plan, then here I can see these 2 cameras on the floor plan. So again, I can select one, see the settings. If I select the other one, then that's the settings for this camera. So in each selected camera, you can actually see how the sun is positioned and its angle. And so it will go from this first camera to the second camera if I create an animation. And so here it says I'm on camera 2. So I can switch to camera 1. And I can also set to wait. So if I do an animation, I can wait at a certain camera for a number of frames. To set the number of stops or frames between these 2 cameras, if I'm doing an animation, then I can click on the path button here. And here I can set the in-between frames. So here currently it's set to 10. So this determines how many frames between the first camera and the next camera. This in-between frames is 10 between every camera. So if I have 3 cameras, then it will be 10 between these 2 and 10 between the next 2. So you can't set it between each camera. Yeah, it's a global setting for the entire path. So what I tend to recommend is if we're creating a third camera, so I'm just going to grab this camera, drag a copy, and just move it around a little bit. It's also using a kind of a Bezier curve, so similar to the spline tool. Okay, so now this path has 3 cameras. So it'll have 10 frames between the first 2 and 10 frames between the next 2. So when you position your cameras, if this is only really important if you're doing an animation, but I would generally put the cameras at equal distances, just because the in-between frames is always going to be the same. Okay, so any questions so far? So what you could do is have one camera maybe at a certain date and time, and then have another camera maybe a few hours later, so you can actually, as the camera moves around, the sun position is also moving. So that by just selecting a camera and setting date and time, here I can actually click this little button to set the current time. So this little button here, just to set the current time. And once I've set this, I always have to click apply. If I don't do that, it will actually, it won't push those settings to the selection. How do I copy a camera? Exact same way that you would copy anything else. So just drag and then tap the control key to make a copy. So if I'm dragging the second one, it's now put it between the, so it's added it after the selected one. Can we do animation after rendering? These cameras don't have to be used for animation. They can actually just be used to make stills from. So if I just say double click on camera 1, I can just say a view. Okay, I'll just call camera 1. And you can see that this view has a little camera on it. That means that this view is actually linked to a camera. So if that camera does change, then this view should change as well. So it just means that it's generated from a camera versus just a 3D view. So often I find it's good, even when you're creating 3D views, maybe use cameras and then save a view from those cameras, because then I can just modify. So then I can just kind of drag this camera around. And hopefully, yeah, okay. So unfortunately, it doesn't stick very long. I'm going to modify this camera. Yeah, unfortunately, it will, yeah, okay, that's not what I actually anticipated. So it's created from a camera, but unfortunately, it doesn't keep that link well intact. So I'm just checking the... Yeah, okay. Never mind. So sometimes I find it easier to create some cameras to sort of save some views rather than just trying to create 3D views, but it's up to you. Okay, so back in the floor plan. These cameras are also only visible in floor plan, and you can only see one path at a time. And even if I close this setting, I can still see that path. So one way to turn off this path, actually there isn't a direct way. What I would generally do is create a new path and just call this one empty. Okay, and don't put any cameras in here. So when you choose a path, it will always show you the cameras of the current selected path. So I tend to make a dummy one, which is empty, which will therefore turn off the cameras in the floor plan. How do you do the path? Okay, let me just go to change back to my cameras. We can click on the path dialog, and here we can choose whether it's just a Bezier versus a polygon, meaning do you want a direct link between the cameras or do you want a smooth link? So usually you would choose a Bezier. And here I'm displaying the camera and path. So if the path is important, you can switch it to just cameras only. Just depending on if you want to actually do an animation or not. And here we can just see the pen of the path, and just the in-between frames is quite useful to set. You automatically get a path once you have more than one camera. Yeah, so this is roughly how you can deal with cameras. So in this palette again, we have the camera creator fly-through, and here we can use the currently selected path. So the perspective from camera path, the 01 outside. If you have two cameras and no path, then just check under path to see if the display option is set to camera and path. If it's just camera only, then you won't see the path itself. So this is just an on-screen display option. Okay. What we can do with the fly-through, so on this palette for 3D visualization, the second last icon, we can go create fly-through. We won't save it, but what we can do is hit show. So this will actually run through the 3D window with this camera. It'll only be like 2, the total length is 2. So if I choose the frame rate much lower, then it will increase the length. Because I only have 10 frames between these cameras, so it's a very short animation. So if I just hit show on this dialog, then it'll open up the 3 window, and you can see that now it just plays through. So that's kind of maybe a handy little thing for a presentation. Unfortunately, you can't kind of control it. It just runs through and then stops. Yeah. So could everyone quickly hit, so change the frame rate in the fly-through just to be a lower number, and then hit show. And you should be able to see it in 3D. If it's a complex building, then just updating the 3D window might take a little bit of a time. So. Okay. I was going to show you a couple of other things. I'm not sure if Zach also wants to show this, just regarding the 3D styles, just regarding some more sort of visualization. Zaid, do you, okay, go ahead. Sure. Okay, so everyone's in the 3D window, or if anyone has any questions about the cameras. So in ARCHICAD, I find the cameras quite basic, but they can come in handy. So it's not a fully fledged kind of animation, but it has some basic functionality for you. So no questions on cameras. Now, if we want, the animation is the same. So we go to the create fly through, and instead of just show, we hit save. And here we can see the source, so it's either the 3D window, which means the OpenGL view, or we can set it to photo rendering, but this will be much, much slower because then it will take a render of every single frame and then stitch them together. So just need to choose the source, whether it's the 3D window or rendering. Make sure that it's perspective, and usually you would want width in between frames because you don't, the keyframes are meaning the cameras only, and with in between frames means all of the 10 frames between cameras as well. Regarding the smoothness, okay, so I'll also just regarding the fly-through dialog, there is this one checkbox at the bottom left that says rebuild model for each frame. If you have, for example, those trees that Zaid showed, then they face the viewer, but it needs a rebuild of the model so that tree will face the person. So if you have something like those flat trees or something that's been coded to always face the camera, then you will need to check this on. Otherwise, you'll start going around the trees and see them as just a 2D. So, but this will obviously take things longer because it will rebuild the model each time. Okay, so I'm going to cancel from this. Okay, so regarding the smoothness of the camera, we can select one camera, and in the settings dialog, so the camera settings, we can click this little button on the end, which is smooth path, which is called smooth path, which means it'll just get that Bezier and just make it smoother between the other two cameras. If you only have two, then it's a direct line. To make sure it's a Bezier under the path, just make sure that the camera is set to Bezier. So on the path, just make sure that it's set to Bezier as opposed to polygon. And then you should get these little handles that you can actually move. And you can also try, when you select one camera, to also use this button to smooth the path. Let me just delete, probably because you didn't have anything selected, it will be disabled. So here I've only got two cameras, and I've got this Bezier lines that I can drag to set the path between those two cameras. So that little smooth thing, okay, maybe that's that's less smoother. Yeah, okay, so the smooth is basically a straight line between the two, that's one. So it's better if you have three cameras. So I'm just going to select the last one and then just drag a copy to get that third camera in, and then rotate. So I'm just using the same shortcuts that we've learned before. And now I can go smooth, and this one, use the smooth. Yeah. Smooth, yeah. So it will only smooth the camera that is currently selected. But you can select more and then smooth all of them at once. Yeah. So again, to turn this off, I just create an empty path, and therefore it will only show me one path at a time. So that's just like a little trick to be able to hide it. Correct. So you can also change this to none, but I find that that can be a little bit confusing because then you have to go to path and then show it again. So when you want to edit this path, it's better to see it. So I find creating an empty one is just quicker. So I find creating an empty one is quicker, but yes, you can change the path to say none. So that's the second option. But now, if I want to edit this, I can't select any of these cameras. So I would always have to keep changing this to show me the camera and path. You can also change this to everything. And therefore, I see each of those 10 in between frames. So I actually see where the camera is exactly going to go. And you can see that between the target, it's a straight line. So the target is not smooth like the camera itself. So under path, I can also choose the target to be smooth, not just polygon. Click OK. So now the target is also smooth. So if you're doing animation, sometimes it's good to see everything, so even these in-between frames, just to get an understanding of how it's being created. So I would generally try to create camera paths quite short, rather than trying to create 20 cameras, because I think it's maybe a little bit more, not troublesome, but just trying to get the in-between frames correct and getting the distances to be roughly equal, so it's a smoother path. So I tend to find not doing a huge one-path animation, doing it in small clips is probably better. So to see these, I just turned on path and then hit everything. So that will show in between ones as well. Okay. Any questions? Any further questions on this? Oh. No, okay, thank you. Okay, so let's all go to the 3D window. Yep. So everyone's in the 3D window. Okay, so Syed showed you about the rendering, and he briefly showed you the 3D styles, but I just want to go through that in a little bit more detail. So in the 3D window, in empty space, we're just going to right-click, 3D styles, and 3D styles. So this dialog goes through how this 3D window will look. And in the left, so I just right-click 3D styles, 3D styles. So in the left here, we've got two sets of groups divided with a line. Where to go in there. So far, I've just got the dialog open. So I'll type again where to go. Okay. So okay. So once we have this 3D styles open, we have two groups. So we have these items above the line and the ones in the engine, which we call the Vectorial Engine, and those below the line are all using OpenGL. So if I just switch to, say, the basic Vectorial, then you can see the engine is using Vectorial Engine. So the Vectorial Engine is developed by Graphisoft and OpenGL. No, sorry, not necessarily both are developed by us, but the Vectorial Engine is basically drawing what you see on screen with lines and fills and things like this. But the OpenGL is using a graphics card to pixel place the image. So it's creating an image versus a kind of vectorial vector drawing. So the Vectorial Engine is actually what we use to generate the sections and elevations. So this is kind of coming from the Vectorial Engine, which means it's to scale, or it's based on a scale. And then the OpenGL is more of an image that is rendered on the screen. So that's kind of the difference between. That's why some features are only available in the Vectorial and some are just available in the OpenGL. So I'll quickly show you kind of the difference. So let's, for example, choose the simple shading vectorial. And here we can choose the background of the window, and each one can have a different kind of color. So it can have a basically a below and above the horizon line. You can choose 2 different colors, or you can choose an image that actually comes from the photo rendering palette. So in the photo rendering palette, you can choose an image, and you can have this window to be the same. But that image in the background won't move when you move the camera. So it's kind of just a static image. We have contours. So this is more important, I think, for the vectorial. So here we can say the contours and a little preview will increase. So the silhouette, maybe you want to have a bolder line around the edge, and the vectorial hatch, what kind of line size do you want? So the image will just show. So maybe the silhouette, so we're on the simple shading vectorial, and the silhouette will just increase to a higher number. Yeah. And we can also turn on the sun shadows. But we'll keep these default settings. Okay, so for now we'll just keep it like this, just with the silhouette up and turning on the shadows, and then we're going to click OK. Okay, so this can actually be quite an interesting display for, say, a customer. Or you can start saving off like a PDF or something like this. Because this is using the Vectorial Engine, it is much slower. So when you navigate, if it's a complex model, then it will turn to wireframe much more often, because it has a lot more to calculate, because it has to calculate all these vectorial lines versus just creating an image like the OpenGL. So I wouldn't rely too heavily on the Vectorial Engine in 3D. I would generally always use the OpenGL. But one benefit of the Vectorial Engine, because it's similar to a section or an elevation, I can actually get the marquee, and I can marquee over it. I can hit copy, and here I can actually copy these as. So what I find helpful sometimes is to look above, for example, and then here we can say, don't copy the construction elements, but only copy the shadows. So if you want to copy the shadows from the 3D, then you can actually use this method. So it's a little bit of a maybe hidden technique, but I find this sometimes quite useful. The other method would be creating like a 3D document and showing shadows with the 3D document, so you don't have to necessarily do it through the 3D window. I'm going to just hit cancel on this. Okay, so this is the Vectorial Engine. I don't actually have anything. I'm just going to change my roof material so it will have a vectorial hatch. So I'm just selecting the roof. So it is just asking me if I can show the sun study as well. Sure. I thought, as I already went through it a little bit, but I can do. Sorry, you guys should have a platform basically underneath your building, but I don't. So I'm just going to quickly draw, yeah, something on the ground. So I can see some shadows. Okay, so I'm going to switch now back. So this is the Vectorial Engine, and sorry, I was just going to go and show the Vectorial hatch on this roof. So I'm selecting the roof, opening up the settings, and I'm going to override the top surface just with this default, and okay. Okay, so now I can see this Vectorial hatch, which is what you would see in a section elevation if you use this Vectorial hatch. So in this engine, we can't see the textures. We can only see these Vectorial hatches. So now if I right-click an empty space and switch my 3D style to simple shading with shadows, so in the lower section, it will use an OpenGL. So I'm going to switch now from the simple shading vectorial to simple shading with shadows in the lower section. Okay, so now it's using the OpenGL engine, and now the images renders have come back, and overall it's a much faster engine to work with. You'll notice also when I go into the 3D styles, so like the rendering, we can also create a monochrome model where we can say turn everything, all the contours and the surfaces to a single color. So this can also be good for presentation. So when you're just showing the 3D view, you don't want to show the surfaces and stuff. So let's switch to one of those predefined ones. I'm going to switch now my 3D style to white model with shadows. So I see a lot of users do this, especially I think in Singapore, because in Singapore, the requirements are like, cyan is existing, magenta is new, stuff like that. So it become quite bright. So I see some customers actually switch to a white model just to more clearly understand just the form rather than with all the materials and colors. So I find this quite a good working method and maybe a good presentation method as well. Yeah. So all I did was change the 3D style to a white model with shadows. Yeah. So this is different to the rendering white model. This is just an on-screen. You don't have to choose white. You can actually choose any color. It's just a single color for the surfaces and for the another one for the edges. So maybe like you want an off-white or something. Or maybe you want like an inverse, like maybe black versus white edges, something like that. Okay. So I'm going to I'm just going to change, because you've got windows and stuff, so I don't. I'm just going to quickly change one of my walls to be glass. And even though I've changed all the surfaces to white, the transparency is still kept, which is worth noting, I think. So I think you guys have windows, but I didn't have any, but the transparency is still kept even with this color kind of override. The same thing could also be done with graphic overrides. So you could create a graphic override that just says color everything in one color, or color things depending on certain criteria. But the easiest method tends to be this white model 3D style. And I think it's a good for presentations. Okay, so now that I've got it in this white model, I'm going to do a sun study. So what I'm going to do is look from the top of this model. So what I'm going to do is right click and go to 3D projection settings. And we're probably at the time limit, but hopefully people can stick around for another a few more minutes. I'm not sure if Zaid also wants to talk a bit about something after me. Okay, so we'll projection setting up projection settings. So right click to the projection settings. I want to switch to the parallel projections, and I want to switch to, so in this little button, I want to change that to top view. So here we have some standards like isometric, monometric, dimetric, etc. But I will choose the top view for now. And click OK. So now I'm looking top view, sort of in the parallel projections. Okay, so now I want to see how this sun study is going to work from like 9, sort of from early in the morning to the evening. So like what we did with the create fly-through, I'm going to use the create sun study, which is the last icon on this toolbar. And just like the fly-through, I can actually just do show. So I won't save the video. So I'm going to use the 3D window because I don't want to render it. We can choose the date of this animation. And I'm going to choose the from sunrise to sunset. Maybe I'll choose 2020. Okay, so I'm just the date of this of the sun study, the timing of the sun study, all frames, and I'm going to choose the frame rate to be quite low, just because it's an interval of 30 minutes. So maybe I'll change this down to like 10 minutes, so there's more, and increase the frame rate to, yeah, so then you can see the total size. So it's all about the interval versus the frame rate. The timestamp, so if you save a movie, you can actually create a little timestamp that just includes like a counter and a date on as an overlay on the video. So this is kind of just handy. If you're not using 23, I think this is just in 23, this dialog. Okay, so the create fly-through, 3D window, sunrise to sunset, all frames. I've set intervals to 10 and set the frame rate to 5. And I'm going to hit show. So now my 3D window is just doing like a little animation. So it's just going through each of those frames and showing me the sun study. So I find choosing the top view is better for this. Okay. Any questions on this? How did everyone go? Could you get this sun study, and could you get this top view? How about setting the model location? Yep, this is generally the first thing that we should do before we even start working. On Mac, it's actually a little bit different. Yep, so under options, project preferences, project location. So options, project preferences, project location. And here we can set exactly where the location is, so the longitude, latitude. To get roughly where we want it, we can just click on this little planet icon. And okay, it's actually in Budapest. So we can set it to Kuala Lumpur. And hit OK. So then there's updates. You can also get, so you can click on this, go to Google Maps, and it will show you exactly where this longitude, latitude is in Google Maps. And if you want to make it more accurate, in Google Maps, you can usually right-click and say, what's this or something, and you can get the coordinates in Google Maps as well. So I'm setting longitude, latitude, and it sets the time zone. Here I can set the project north, so in the little image I can just rotate the north. So I'm just going to keep it up and just hit OK. And in my 3D projection settings, my sun position I'm going to set to date and time. And hit OK. And now I'll show the sun study. Yeah, so you can see it's quite different from the Budapest location, which was going up towards the north. Like obviously, and also in Australia, like the shadow always goes around to the south. So, but obviously here, because we're close to the equator, it pretty much goes overhead. Yeah. Any questions? So could you find that the location dialog? And this is why in the 3D projection settings and in the camera, we also have this date and time. So you can put any position for the camera, but I would generally recommend to use date and time, just because then you know it's a true sun and not just kind of a fake sun. But it's depending on kind of what kind of quality you want to get out, yeah, and whether you actually want the shadows to be on or real. So, any further questions? The rendering, okay. Maybe I can hand it back to you, if that's okay, unless there's any further questions for me. Sure, okay.
Okay, guys, you can hear me? So now as you look at the my screen, it's only 24%. Okay, but I can see the blades of the grass growing. Okay, so this session is not about photorealistic rendering alone, right? It's more on the general, like James showed the camera, and then the vector just now, and then the sun study. Those are also considered as rendering, even though it's not photorealistic. Okay, the one that I'm showing on my screen now is photorealistic rendering. So we purposely just put it rendering, okay? Right? Because photorealistic rendering, as you know, it will take time. It will take time for anybody to master actually. Right? Okay. Any other question? Okay, what time now? 11:30. Any other question from you guys? I don't know when this will finish, but I like the grass is growing. Okay. And this is only a small, just take note, this is only a small project. So okay, try to understand how to manage your file when you do anything, especially even rendering. Okay. So try not to use those funny graphs. Okay, so just now I think somebody asked about animation. Okay, we will try to set a date for Twin Motion. Okay, most likely we will have two dates. One will be how we download, how we install, set up. Then once, okay, because that will take a while as well. Then after that, once we have done that, okay, then we will set another date for the actual Twin Motion session. But so just try, for those of you later who have after we have gone through the installation, just see whether your machine can take. Okay, see whether you can run Twin Motion, because Twin Motion is power hungry. Okay. When do we use HDRI environment? Okay, HDRI you can use it anytime, but then okay, you can. I was looking at this yesterday. I think I found something. Openfootage.com. Okay, openfootage.com. There are some images. I think HDRI, you have to download some of the images, okay, that are inside. No, this is one of the websites. Okay, and HDRI will enhance the lighting. based on the image that we use. Okay. Personally, I have not used HDRI rendering before. Okay. I haven't used I haven't tried rendering using the HDRI environment. Even last time when I was using SketchUp, also I haven't tried that. So it's about time also. Maybe I want to try as well. See how good it is in ARCHICAD. Right. But I know that based on the videos I've seen, okay, based on the blogs people wrote, HDRI is quite good. How to brighten the internal spaces when you render. Okay. You can bring in subjects like the lights, especially. Okay, let's say you're looking for lamps. Lamp or light. Okay, there's some lamps you can bring in. Okay, there are some. Okay, when you go to the objects tool, all those objects with the planet. Okay, so these are available for you to download. You have to download them. Okay, so lamp. Okay, of course, inside you have to add lamp. There's one. There's light. Okay. You can get an object, or you can also go to the lamp sims. Okay, lamp tool here. Right, the lamp tool. Okay, let me widen this. Okay, widen this guy. Hello. Okay, see the lamp tool here. Okay, next to the corner window. Okay, so you can have those area lighting, or some people call it omni lighting, general lighting. You can just bring this light into the space. Okay, into your interior. Okay. So the lamp tool is better. So instead of putting the lighting like this, the lamp tool. Okay. Then of course here we have street lamps. Right. Is that okay, Gary? Okay. I don't know how long my rendering will finish, but I just want to keep it there. Okay. So if there's no more question, okay, you guys can have a good lunch. I thought there is a way without adding light source. Okay. Of course, it would be good if you have lots of glass, okay, and let the sunlight to go into the house, okay, or into the space. Okay, that is another way. Okay, so you already know how to angle the the sun, right? So I've seen some of the renderings in some users who use ARCHICAD CineRender to render without any extra light source. Okay, is nice, but you would require some understanding of how to adjust the sunlight height. Then try to have more window openings, so allow the sun to come in. So it can be quite nice. So it's all try and error. Rendering is not, from my experience. I know one guy, a Filipino, when I was in SIA. So he came to our office, so he learned all the software. Then I asked him, hey, Renato, what software have you used? okay, any software, and you name it, right? You name it, right? From 3D Max, V-Ray, all those expensive softwares, right? Then he showed me one. He used one cheap softwares, right? Without Photoshop, because we know a lot of renderers after they do the rendering, they Photoshop. Okay, but this guy did not Photoshop at all. So I asked him, you know, how do you do it? It's all about practice. It's practice, practice, practice. He told me what? Very philosophical. He told me if you can't drive, right? I give you an F1 car, you can drive, right? So if you want to drive an F1 car, you have to practice, 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 right? But if you can drive, you can give me one cheap car, right? And I can drive, right? If you are a F1 driver, right? If you can drive, you can any car you will drive, okay? Okay. At a speed you can overtake all this. Okay, so so it's all about when you do rendering, it's all about practice, practice, practice. So you don't have to do a big house. Okay, just do a small house. Okay, like this. How to make a light source. Okay, to add into the room. So all this about practice, right? Okay, of course, the light, whatever you choose, whichever light source that you choose here, okay, of course, you can play with the setting, play with the shadow. Okay. So whatever default we have here, not necessary to be the best, okay, depending on how you want, okay, how you want it, yep, how you want the output to be. So, right, so like any other tools that we showed you from the beginning, or some of you are already users, right? Okay, every element that we have, there is this thing called settings. It is something that we expect users to explore. There's no way we can show every single one of them, but you need to explore. So we just show you where to access all this. Okay. Even some things that James showed just now, so I know I learned quite a fair bit. That's why I like him to present, right? So some tips and tricks. We don't get it even from our colleagues. Okay, these things only designers of the software will know. So thank you, James. Right. All right. So anything else? Okay. What else? Light source. Okay. All right. Okay. So everybody is in a learning process. Even myself also, even though but we are still learning. I'm not shy to say I'm also learning. Okay. No matter how good you are, learning is a journey, is a consistent process. Yes, correct. Yes, Rashid is correct. Okay, I can still remember when I was in architecture, we were using 3D Max. Okay, I did do the rendering, but my colleague who were expert, he told me no, that time machine was slow, so not even Intel Celeron, not even that. So he told us, so if you want to do rendering, like maximum lighting that time was 8 light source, maximum. Okay, more than that, okay, you will die, right? So then on top of that, he cheated. He told us, how to cheat. So instead of showing all the walls around the building, right, he just he just modeled few walls that the camera is looking at, right? So so behind is empty. It's like a movie studio, right? So those were the times, okay. So now I think machines are quite fast now. Even fast also not as fast like what I have, 16 gig, right? Not as fast. Okay. OpenGL is basically more for started with gaming. Okay. Okay. So I think Rashid also have been doing a lot of a lot of the rendering. I think Rashid has experience with rendering. Okay, just for your info, I think Rashid is from JKR, right, Rashid? Okay. Long time user of ARCHICAD, long time supporter of ARCHICAD. Okay. Okay. Thank you for joining us. We hope JKR starts to use ARCHICAD again. JKR abandoned long time ago. Any reason, Rashid, why JKR abandoned ARCHICAD? It's a long story, right? I don't know. I don't really know the oh, this is very long story. Long story. Okay. Okay. Okay, thanks guys. Okay, have a nice lunch. Okay.